As we're about to come to the conclusion of this Noirvember challenge, I wanted to do for this second to last video something different. So I decided to look for a film noir classic that I hadn't yet watched and that I didn't know anything about. And for that purpose, I took one of my old film noir books. This one, in fact, is in Catalan and it's a dictionary of film noir. And I just flicked through it and thought, well, I'll just stop at one point and whatever happens to be on that page, that will be the movie that I will talk about for this video. So that's what I did, and it happened to open up by
a few minutes later
by this page in which you can see. So that is how, quite by chance, I'm going to talk today about Pickup on South Street, released in 1953 again, produced by 20th Century Fox and directed by Samuel Fuller.
From the bright lights of Broadway, through the subway undergrounds, to the gutters of South Street, they followed this woman in Pickup on South Street. Starring Richard Widmark as Skip, Jean Peters as Candy, Thelma Ritter as Mo, the stoolie. Even in her business, she drew the line somewhere.
As I was just saying, Pickup on South Street is a movie that probably, like most of you, or some of you, I had never watched and I knew nothing about. And I couldn't be happier that I decided to just do that silly little random thing to pick a movie, because in this case it worked and it has made me discover a film noir that is quite remarkable. The film stars Richard Widmark, Jean Peters, and Thelma Ritter. The plot of this movie revolves around a stolen microfilm. That would be, I should say, sort of like the MacGuffin of Pickup on South Street, but I would say that what the movie is really about is the human side of the lives of three outcasts. In this case, Richard Widmark's character, the pickpocket Skip McCoy, Candy, played by Jean Peters, and Mo, quite the star of the movie, if I may say so, played by Thelma Ritter. Again, basically the movie navigates the Cold War and espionage, but is really a look at these three human beings that appear on it. They are all outcasts that, despite operating at the margins of the law, they have their own code, they have their own honor, and that is something important, I think, that comes across with this movie. There's a respect and an affection for these characters. The movie is thrilling, concise. It lasts about 120 minutes. Very well told and written. Dialogues, again, I should say, are truly fantastic in creating all these characters. I'm particularly glad I watched this movie because I had the chance to watch two different roles from Richard Widmark and Jean Peters, and they are quite terrific here. Obviously, Thelma Ritter is a supporting actress that I really admire and that I have seen in quite a lot of movies, but particularly Richard Widmark and Jean Peters, two actors that I have to confess I haven't watched that many movies of. So it was again quite a fortuitous discovery. I knew though of Richard Widmark's imprint in film noir, especially because of his first stellar villainous role in the movie Kiss of Death. But again, I'm more familiar with later roles in which he played more heroic parts. He plays wonderfully this insolent anti-hero, but if I have to be honest, Jean Peters was the true surprise for me in this film, because again, I had only seen her in films like Three Coins in the Fountain or Anne of the Indies, and she plays quite a polar opposite role from that. I read that for her part, Candy, in this movie, they tested Marilyn Monroe, and I also read that Shelley Winters was also offered the role, but she got pregnant. So Jean Peters, who wasn't an obvious choice, ended up being the best. And obviously I have to mention Thelma Ritter because she is once again brilliant in this film. And I'd say in almost all the movies that I've seen of her, she is the person that the protagonists tend to turn to for advice or protection or both. And this movie is no exception. She is inevitably, again, the person everyone turned to. She was nominated quite rightfully for this movie in a string of consecutive nominations for her parts in All About Eve, The Mating Season, and With a Song in My Heart. She was nominated on 6 occasions, but sadly never got the reward she so deserved. So here is our tiny little tribute to a fantastic character actress. And if you also love Thelma Ritter as much as I do, I really recommend that you watch Pick Up on South Street. Watching this movie also has been an opportunity to discover a bit more about its director and also screenplay writer Samuel Fuller. He was also a filmmaker that I eminently knew for movies like House of Bamboo or Yuma, but again hadn't really explored that much about his filmography, and I will certainly try to change that from now on. I discovered that he was a fascinating director who had previously quite an epic career, first as a crime reporter and then as a writer and screenplay writer, who had an impressive military record in World War II and who, as an artist, had really a talent and a passion for bringing emotion and a human dimension for his stimulating stories. He is also a man that has influenced lots of filmmakers, not just in the US, but in the whole world. He had specifically a great impact in France during the New Wave period, having directors like Jean-Luc Godard and also Truffaut. And he's also had an influence on filmmakers like Jim Jarmusch, Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, or Steven Spielberg. He is definitely a creator to learn more about, especially because of the way he approached filmmaking. I just also watched an interview that it's on YouTube, and what you can pick up from that interview is really his personality and his view on movies and the way stories should be told. And there are a couple of things that he says, for instance, that the director should write with his camera and that movies should be all about emotion and that he goes by instinct. What I was really impressed when I watched Pick Up on South Street is the way he puts the camera, the angles that he chooses. There are a lot of close-ups in this movie, extreme close-ups in some instances, which in some scenes reminded me of spaghetti westerns like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You know, those frames when a character is looking at another and we get all the stream close-ups. It's something that I was really reminded of when I was watching Pick Up on South Street. And I'd say that the way, again, he puts the camera and decides to tell a story from is quite impressive. And also the editing in this movie, I'd say, is one of the best resources and something that really contributes to how thrilling and again stimulating this movie is. And you can see another way of storytelling here. Cinematography, once again, I'd say it's something that we have to mention. In this movie, it was by Joseph McDonnell, a professional that we hadn't yet talked about and who was quite known for the gritty noirs he participated in, with titles like Shock, The Street with No Name, and Panic in the Streets. This last two also starring Richard Widmark. But Joseph McDonnell was also known for his work in movies like My Darling Clementine, Yellow Sky, Niagara, or How to Marry a Millionaire, and who would also work again with Samuel Fuller in movies like Hell or High Water and House of Bamboo. Pickup on South Street is again shot in an almost documentary-like style and also much like Out of the Past, only in about 20 days. The movie also had quite a controversial start because of, again, the world and the characters that it depicts. It had to circumvent the Hays Code because of the violence, again, that is present in this movie. This is a movie that, again, I'm so happy to have discovered, that has a balance between brutal and really thrilling sequences and also sentimental, emotional ones. There is romance, there's a sensitivity towards these characters that you can't help to fall in love with and root for. There are so many lectures and things to appreciate from this movie. Pay special attention to the music, to the songs that are played in this movie, and also pay special attention to where Richard Widmark's character Skip McCoy lives. So again, it is a film that I really recommend, that if you can, you give it a chance. You won't be sorry, I promise. Alright, so that was all for today's video. I hope that you found it interesting and that you enjoyed this one. I just wanted also to let you know that we only have one more video to go of this Noirvember series, and that I truly hope that you enjoyed. I hope that the film that I've chosen for this last video is one that it will be the perfect ending to this challenge. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for sharing the love for classic movies. And once again, take care, stay safe, and see you all tomorrow for the grand